Hi, and welcome to this edition of the Reliability Experience. I'm George Williams.
And I'm Joe Anderson.
Nice. And this week we are going to kind of flip the tables a little, Joe.
Yeah,
We're going to talk about why successful implementations are successful. So there's an awful lot of discussion in the industry around why initiatives fail. Mm-hmm. And that's a negative context, right? Instead of focusing on why we fail, we want to have a conversation around, well, what makes successful ones successful? Right. So if you're implementing any asset management efforts or reliability efforts, we're going to talk a little bit today around what are the characteristics and traits associated with success.
Sounds good. What is success?
This is where we have the dialogue, Joe. This is where we talk about success. Joe, talk about success.
If I've ever tasted it, I would know what it is.
No, seriously. There are very specific characteristics that I've found in my past, not through anything I've ever done, but through what other people have done, that pinpoint or at least guide us to understanding what are the characteristics we see in success? Name one.
A champion.
A champion.
Yeah.
Nice. Like the Eagles.
Were a couple years ago. No. You want to talk about a championship organization, we have to talk about the Patriots. But
Philly special, baby. Philly special.
Yeah. One and done. It is what it is.
It's all right. We'll bask in it forever.
Kind of like my Falcons.
Forever.
Yeah.
All right. So a champion. What is a champion?
Champion is the one that takes ownership and initiative to drive the necessary improvements that need to take place.
And do you just hire that? Do you put out an app, a job posting that says we're looking for a champion?
It's possible. I mean, you could get lucky. So, they hired me. I'm the champion.
We need a mascot. All right, great.
Yeah,
so what makes someone a champion?
I think it's those things, and the ability to create an environment of collaboration to get people work together, and then a combination of things on top of that to drive the necessary changes, which are some of the topics we'll talk about.
They've got to have passion. They've got to have a desire. They got to have the knowledge to back it up. They've got to earn the respect of the people on the shop floor because they've got to be able to relate to them folks.
I think they need a certain level of knowledge, but honestly, if your ability to lead people, communicate with people is there, you really don't have to know as long as you know where to find the answers. I would think, and I can attest to this myself, given that I'm not the technical guy, you have to know where to go to get the answers, because you're not always going to know. But the thing that drove me was to try to make people better, to care about people, to see more in them than they see in themselves, and to try to drive them to excel within their careers or better themselves in their life. So.
And they've got to be the person that sets the level of expectation and lives by that level of expectation, right? I always kind of give the example of when I walk through the plant, if I see a piece of trash on the floor, I pick it up.
Right.
It doesn't matter where it is. It doesn't matter who dropped it. It doesn't matter what I'm doing. You bend down, you pick it up, you throw it in the trash, right? Yep. And that kind of sets a level of expectation. And it may seem minuscule, but a champion does that. A champion is setting the level of expectation based on their actions inside the plant.
Well, it also shows integrity. It shows the ability to lead. You can always tell a leader when...
Because it's more than a pint.
Yeah. Right. But a leader... So leadership itself isn't a position. It's influence and your ability to influence. From no matter where you are within the organization, whether you're the janitor or the CEO, every one of us, in some way in our lives, we are leaders. Every one of us are. Some people think you're born with it. Some people think it's trained. But naturally, we're all leaders in some aspect. right? Are we fathers? Are we, brothers, sisters? We have family, mothers. We're leading something somewhere. The question is are we a good leader or are we a bad leader? It's not whether we're leaders or not. Everybody is a leader at something, and how well you do it is the differentiating factor. But again, it's things like integrity. You can always tell when somebody's walking down the hallway and they bend over and pick up that piece of trash. You know that person right there, they have that mindset that, they have pride in what they do. They're setting an example for others, and they have integrity. I think it shows integrity.
All right, so we need to have a champion, somebody behind the effort that is communicating its importance, that is driving the realization that it can occur, that they are, promoting the work that is going on, and they are the person that, when they don't know, they're seeking out information to know, right? They're the champion. Mm-hmm. Give me one example.
Of a champion?
Yeah. Give me somebody in the industry that's a champion.
Paul Crocker.
Nice. That's a good example.
He's a supervisor. So I know many supervisors I've talked to that...
By the way, if you're playing at home, every time we mention Paul Crocker...
Yeah, you get a drink. But the reason for that is it's his ability to influence others from his position.
That's right.
And you hear all the time, well, if I had the power, I could do this and this and this. No, you wouldn't. It wouldn't be any different if you had the power. If you're not doing it where you're currently doing it, you're not going to be any different if you had the power.
You've got to change your internal mindset, right, not your position in the organization, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And because it's influence, and the way you influence others, depending on where they're at in the organization, it's through education, through bringing awareness, through trying to get them involved, trying to show them value, and getting them on board, whatever it is.
Through actively championing.
Right.
Yeah, no doubt. So that makes total sense. What's another characteristic of a successful organization?
The ability to get quick wins.
Oh, yeah.
So, in quick wins, it doesn't have to be a major project. The way I've always gone about doing it in my career is, for example, if I'm trying to get the operations group involved in doing maintenance tests, the first thing I'm doing is asking operators what's their biggest obstacles, or what are the problems that they're having out on the floor. What can I do to make you run better? And normally it's one or two little minor things that they want done that no one will ever do because no one's listening. So you go out there, you take 10 minutes, you fix these couple little things, and all of a sudden this person knows that you care, you solution problems for them, and now they see you as a go-to guy. And they become a part of your network that you need to develop in order to drive change. So it's quick wins in that aspect, not just going out and solving a huge problem and saving the world. You don't need to do that.
And I think that lends, so early in my career, one of the things I did was we sat the entire maintenance staff in a conference room and we asked them what the issues were on site. And we just took a whiteboard or it was a flip chart paper actually. And we just asked them, what are the things that are giving you a headache every day? What are the things that are repetitive issues that when you come into work and you realize this thing's going on, you're like, oh, not again.
Yeah.
And we jotted those things down. And this was really early in my career, and I didn't actually know what it was going to drive or what the benefits were. But there's kind of two benefits. One, if you then take that list, normalize it, because you're going to get some things that are just complaints and you're going to get things that are true issues. You go after those true issues and make those issues go away. That does two things. One, it benefits the company.
Right.
The second piece of that is people see you as someone that will get things done for them. Mm-hmm. They will see you as that champion.
Right.
They'll say, you know what? When I told Joe this, Joe took care of it. Mm-hmm. So when I've got issues, I'm going to go see Joe.
Right.
And when Joe comes to me and says, hey, what's going on today? How you doing? How's your family? And says, hey, tell me how we're operating, I'm going to tell Joe the honest truth of what's going on.
Right.
And so you build this rapport and this relationship that, quite frankly, it is bigger than any of your, I'm going to do RCM, all these technical solutions. That piece does more than any of those technical solutions.
I can only attest to it. As far as tracking data and making it tangible, I never have. But I can tell you as a fact that when you raise morale in your organization, your numbers, it's like they fix themselves magically. And it's kind of funny how morale will do more for your organization than any other solution you could think of.
It's a pretty amazing thing, actually. So at Bristol Myers Squibb, one of my previous organizations, we had a global reliability effort several times. We had global meetings back in the early 2000s. Matter of fact, we were at a global meeting when I first took the CMRP exam back in 2003, and it really didn't work as a global effort then. And then in the later 2000s, we tried a global initiative when we were doing a Maximo upgrade to 6.2, and that didn't really work either. And it wasn't until we decided the approach needed to change, and what we did was essentially ask the global team, what should our strategy be? And you can read about this journey and this effort in Uptime Magazine. I guess I couldn't even tell you which editions they were, but they were in 2015, summer 2015. Mm-hmm. Going into 2016, there were 4 articles associated with that journey, and you can read on those. But essentially, what the difference was we were no longer dictating things. We were asking for input. We were asking people what their opinions were. We were engaging them in dialogue. And along that path, we were educating them so they could have a more informed dialogue, but it was a dialogue. And when we built the strategy in 2014, I actually wasn't involved in building the strategy. We separated those teams into separate rooms. We had like 60 people at a conference. We split them into 4 separate rooms, and we asked them to build our strategy. And we asked each room to do it in isolation and then come back and present what that strategy was, and those strategies aligned. At that point, those folks are on board. They are in bed to the strategy. All 4 of those strategies, literally 80% of the items they said we should focus on, matched across all 4 teams. Mm-hmm. I didn't need to build the strategy anymore. They built it. So, the ownership part of that was immediate. And so what that did was create a tipping point for us. It then became, my function to just support their efforts in implementing that strategy and clearly defining it better than just, what we did in just a day. But, at that point, it's a roller coaster ride. You're just kind of hanging on for the ride, and it moves fast. I had to work to keep up. Yeah. I had to work to keep up with those folks. And so you get to a point where it becomes, and I hate to use the word autonomous. It's not autonomous maintenance, but the team becomes autonomous in their drive, in their dedication, in their ability to seek out information and make a difference. Mm-hmm. And when you get to that point, that's the unstoppable point. That's the point where, regardless of changes in the organization, the success is going to continue. And that's what you want. You want to build an environment where you're not needed. You essentially want to make yourself useless, which I've been since birth. Mm-hmm. So that's
I think really that leads into a good transition from quick wins to evolving culture, because that's a piece of that as well. It's not just the quick wins, but you're evolving the culture and creating a culture of continuous improvement, right? And taking it from normally, in normal circumstances, this reactive, it's a terrible environment, to a continuous improvement environment that, again, it raises morale, it does these things. People want to be a part of something. And when you can reach that tipping point, it's all downhill from there. So,
did you ever read that book?
What's that, Tipping Point? Yeah, I've got 4 or 5 of these. But Yeah, they're pretty good. And but that's the goal, right? The way I've always said it is there's 10 to 20% of the people in your organization that want the change. They're ready for it. They're ready to do whatever it takes to make it better, right? And then you have 60 to 70% that kind of sit on the fence. They've been ramrodded, and every flavor of the month has come their way, and they're just kind of sitting back. They're a little hesitant. They're like, here we go again, another failed implementation, and kind of just sitting back and waiting. And then you have another about 10% of the people that they just really don't care. They're there, they're going to do their job, and they're not going to get involved. And I think some of the mistakes we make is we spend a lot of time trying to convert that bottom 10% instead of focusing on the 10 to 20 that want the change and allowing the others to come along with us on the journey. So if you focus on the 10 to 20%, when you have that core and you're building those quick wins and people are starting to see success, that's when you start to bring those people that are sitting on the fence thinking this thing's going to fail to, hey, maybe this guy is actually going to do something.
They want to be a part of it.
Well, yeah, they start seeing it and go, okay, this isn't another one of those. This is different. And people start to get on board with that, and that's that tipping point.
The amazing thing about that is the interesting thing is, so you have a champion, and the champion starts to create a desire. And then if you can start to evolve that culture, you end up creating new champions. Mm-hmm. And you had said, there's 10%, they're right on board, they're straight out. The interesting thing is that in that weeded area, that 60 to 70% are champions in waiting.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And believe it or not, they're the ones I've seen that actually make the difference.
Of course.
So to go back to another example, previously, we helped build that strategy and we were aligned to a certain framework, and it wasn't until we had a site come in and deliver information that surrounded our strategy, and we were having every 2 weeks we would have a meeting and the sites would give us an update on where they were. And it wasn't until one site took the strategy we built and created a presentation around that, and it created this amazing effect where each subsequent presentation the site felt like they had to outdo the previous site. So they were working really hard to outdo the previous champion, right? So suddenly all these champions start to bubble up. And maybe you're not in an organization that's as big as the organization I'm talking about. And so the scale drops down. But what I've seen even in other organizations is you've got this champion and you get some quick wins, so you get some team members on board. And then you start to develop a following and you start to see success. And those folks that are in the middle, you'll see these champions bubble up. And they're the guys or girls that are kind of a little introverted. They're kind of hesitant. Well, I'm not really sure. But once they're on board, they're the group that drives everything.
Well, I'll tell you, it isn't that they're introverts. The majority, from my experience anyway, the majority of them are the ones that for years have spoke up and no one listened. So they got frustrated and decided, I'm not wasting my time with you anymore.
Good point.
So then you come along and you say, hey, we're going to change. They're like, yeah, whatever. You're not going to listen just like no one else listened to me, right? And so as they start to see the change, they say, hey, this guy really means business. And those are the ones that the whole time, if we would have nurtured them from when they started, they would have been superstars anyway. To now we call them the worst employees in the plant because they're frustrated and they have a bad attitude. And a majority of the time, they're your superstars that you've squanched and not allowed them to flourish within your organization. So you find those guys, and of course they're going to outdo the 10% that want change every single time.
Yeah,
because they are the ones that have it anyway. Those are the superstars. And when you create more champions and you get promoted or you leave that organization, it creates a sustainable environment because you have these mini champions that start popping up and they'll take over the ownership and it becomes a way of life, and that's what makes sustainable results. It's not when the champion leaves, if you leave this huge hole, then you're not really a a champion.
No, at that point you were talent reliant, right? You were, so if you don't, you're right. If you don't evolve the culture, you are reliant on talent and leadership buy-in and all kinds of other things that folks say, if I had this, I would succeed, right? They when you take surveys and you say, what are the things that are stopping you from success? Folks list the same items.
Yep.
They go, senior leadership isn't supporting what I need. That is not stopping your success.
Right.
If that was stopping your success, well, Paul wouldn't be so successful. Mm-hmm. Not that his leadership is against him, but he's got a hurdle to go over to convince them, right? And everybody has that same hurdle. It's how they attack that hurdle that makes a difference.
And there is the rare occasion where no matter what you do, the answer is no.
Yeah, no doubt. Without a doubt. But,
so we're not saying everyone.
But at that point, you've got to question, are you right in the right organization for what your goals are?
I don't disagree.
And so you've got to make a business decision as an individual. Right. Is this the right place for me?
And I agree with you. But I'm just saying that there comes that point where you realize that no matter what you do, what you say, the answer is no, no, no. And then you have to question whether, like you said, whether this is the organization or not.
You either want to make a difference or you don't.
Right.
And if what you come up against is just somebody that in any way, shape, or form is going to say no, you've got to find some other place to make a difference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you have that circumstance as well. So it's got to be with an organization that wants success. You're not going to... I mean, you'll have some success in most organizations if you just fix a couple things. You're going to see success because there's so much low-hanging
fruit. Just go make a difference.
But if you want a sustainable organization, then there's some other key factors that have to be in place. One is management support. And even if they don't support them, as long as they're hands off and they kind of give you the run of the mill, it's all, I mean, you can do it easy. You just take the bull by the horns and go. If you're being micromanaged, I would say that's the wrong organization, or at least the wrong leader within the organization. So you do have those variables.
And I would say if you are the person watching this and you see yourself as the person that could be that champion, and you're in a role and you see yourself as the only person that can do what you do, stop.
Right.
Because you're unpromotable.
Yeah.
If you are the only person that can do what you do to the level at which you do it, you are unpromotable because you are irreplaceable. Mm. And so you should never be irreplaceable. Don't be afraid to coach somebody, mentor them, teach them to do exactly what you do better than you do it. Because what happens is there's champions that want to go someplace. Mm-hmm. And they might not be able to.
Right.
And they can't because, somebody's in this position and they just happen to be the guru. If you are the guru and we can't live without you, we can't promote you.
Right.
I can tell you now, I'm not promoting you.
Well, there's a lot of people...
Why would I promote somebody...
that want to stay in that...
Not that they only want to stay, even if they don't want to stay there.
No,
if there is no one that can do the job as well as they can do it, why would you...
I'm saying some people enjoy that. So they'll never be
no. If you don't want to be promoted,
no, I think they want to be promoted, but they also want to be the go-to know-it-all guy.
Oh, they live... I'm the sight saver?
Yeah. And that's a problem as well. You're still never going to get promoted.
Yeah.
And so you have to learn to relinquish.
And there's nothing wrong with not wanting to be promoted.
No.
There are people that are perfectly happy where they're at.
I'm saying if you're wanting to be promoted, then you've got to get past that. And be able to relinquish power.
Yeah, that's a big piece.
It's not about you, it's about everybody else.